Welcome back to another episode of Harmonious at Lunch, the show that fuels your business success. I'm Brandon Gano, your host and guide through the world of harmonious business growth. Today, we're unlocking powerful strategies with industry experts to help your business thrive. If you're a business owner, entrepreneur, or executive, you are in the right place. Join me and our incredible guest today on the journey to clarity, growth, and success. It is time to revolutionize your approach to business. Let's dive in with another episode of Harmonious at Lunch. Welcome back into some more bite-sized business advice. And we have an episode today that I don't think any entrepreneur will benefit from because we're talking about easing the overwhelm. And we don't have that as business owners and entrepreneurs, as parents. So I don't know. Rebekah, welcome to the show. But do we have anything important to talk about?
Oh my gosh. Yes. In fact, I loved your intro too, talking about like how we just need bite-sized things because we're all overwhelmed by the sheer amount of content and things that we can take in. And so I've been able to kind of make it into bite-sized pieces so it's less overwhelming, as you mentioned.
Yes, I love that. We need you so desperately bad. You have 5 simple systems that can help us ease the overwhelm in our life. And you are the encourager. So I don't know if we need anything more than this episode right here. So Rebekah Scott, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being here. And I want to dive right in. We have a short period of time. Tell me about, you have 5 simple systems to ease overwhelm. Put this in a box for me so we can understand it. What are we talking about? Because overwhelm is a big category. So help me break this down and understand it.
I want to tell you my background first is that I'm a wife, I'm a mother of 4, I own 3 different brands, and we farm and ranch in South Dakota. So I want to say that so that you understand, okay, well, she's not doing what I'm doing. I have lots of roles just like everybody out there. Okay. And so your question was, what are the 5 simple systems?
Yeah. Help me understand overwhelm in general, because yes, that background is super important. Because Rebekah's got a lot going on. We all have a lot going on in our own lives. What kind of overwhelm are you talking about?
So the overwhelm is we get the message very frequently that we can be really good at work one week, but not so good at home life. And then the next week, we're going to reverse it, right? Or then we take a week and we're like, we're going to do both. We're going to be super humans. We're going to do both work and home life really well this week. And then we find out we can't survive on 4 hours of sleep and we burn out. So that kind of messaging in itself is overwhelming and it's unattainable to sustain that for any amount of time. And so what I started doing was starting to work through okay, what are we overwhelmed by? It's that we have to approach both of them at the same time at 100% without breaking down, wait a minute, which one is actually the most broke right now? Meaning is work really overwhelming right now? Or is it actually home life that's really overwhelming right now? And so I built these 5 pillars, which I think everybody kind of has to kind of objectify or at least zoom out and look down and go, okay, which one is actually the most upset right now or the most broke right now? And by being able to isolate that one thing that's the most broke right now, if you will, you feel less overwhelmed because you know part of the problem and you can just attack that area rather than feel like everything is broken, chaotic.
I think that's fantastic because I think as human beings, when something is off, everything feels off.
Yes.
So what you're saying, you break it down into the 5 categories. I want to hear what they are, because that's probably just if you know nothing else from this episode, this will probably help you just to identify the category.
Absolutely. You'll just take this away. So you're just going to look at these 5 categories and just zoom out and go, okay, which one of these is the most broke? Okay, the 5 categories are the me system. That's how you're taking care of yourself. How do you get a full charge? Most people call it self-care, right? Then there's the food system. That's answering the question, what's for supper? If any of you are parents, you ask this question 20 times a day to yourself, right? Oh, great. What's for supper? Okay, that's your food system. Then there's the work system. That's obviously what you do for work, answering the questions who, what, when, where, and why. Then there's your family system. And that's what is the legacy that you're living and what is the legacy you want to leave behind? Do those 2 things line up? Or are they a little incongruent? Are you not actually living how you want to leave a legacy? And then there's the home system. Okay, I guess we actually have laundry to do also, and we should probably clean the house a little bit and that sort of thing. So those 5 things, me, food, work, family, and home, those are the 5 pillars or systems that I think all of us have in some sort. Whether you're married or not, or kids or not, you have those 5 systems already running. And so when you think of those, you guys already recalled, you're like, oh yeah, I do ask myself what's for supper all the time, right? Or you said, I have no idea how I take care of myself. Like I've just put that on the back burner because I have a growth spurt right now in my business. Or you could answer like, okay, well, I know what I do for work, but I tripped you up when I said, hey, what's the legacy you want to leave behind? You're like, ooh, I don't know. I guess I never really thought about it or haven't had time to think about it. So all of those things, each one of us have had experience of thinking, oh, but we've never been able to separate them and zoom out. And so what I love to coach on and talk to people about is like, wait a minute, if everything feels chaotic and you're like super overwhelmed, just zoom out, think of those 5 things and go, which one of these feels the most broke right now? And it might be that you have just not taken very good care of yourself, which the world is telling us a lot of that right now. Like, oh, you just need to take care of yourself. That's not always it, but it could be in your circumstance. Like maybe you just need an hour to go to bed earlier and that'll like make you feel less overwhelmed, or get up an hour earlier to just spend some time by yourself. Okay. Or maybe it's actually that your food system is stressing out all of the other ones because nobody's been being fed really good food. And guys, total permission. If your version of answering what's for supper is takeout, that's okay. That's an answer. So that's even less overwhelming because you already just answered it. What's for supper? Okay. Or maybe you look at it and you go, I think it's my work system that feels the most overwhelming right now. And then I want you to take a look at why. Why does it feel overwhelming? Is it because you're in a growth spurt? Is it because you're working 70 hours, but your family thinks you're only working 40 and you're just lying to yourself about how many actual hours you're putting into work? So maybe it's your work system that's most overwhelming, or maybe it's your home system. Like you feel like your work is going pretty good and you're getting your workout in or whatever that is for your me system and lunch is planned. But when you get home, you feel so irritated that everything is just a pile. Like you're still facing laundry, you're still facing like vacuuming, whatever it is, then maybe it's actually your home system that you just need to make some decisions on so that you feel less overwhelmed when you arrive home. Or maybe you work from home. Same thing, like when you start to do the home life stuff instead of the work life, it still feels overwhelming. Maybe let's come up with a home system that works for you.
I love this because as you were talking, I was laughing a little bit. If you're watching, you can see me laughing here because I didn't realize how overwhelmed I was until you started mentioning the five pillars. You said the question, "What's for dinner?" Right?
Yeah.
I have 3 kids. You have more kids than me, but I know that question very well. And I
Yeah.
personally have eliminated dinner because I can't stand the question. I only eat 2 meals a day because I'm like, I don't want to even think about that throughout my day about feeding them and me at the same time. So now I just feed them and I don't have to think about that question. Clearly, I have a problem.
Yeah.
But
Well, no, because that's your food system. And actually, if
it
that
is.
is working, but maybe that doesn't overwhelm you. But if it still overwhelms you about what you're feeding your kids, then yeah, maybe we should approach it.
Well, it's just the reactions that overwhelm me, but I don't think I can control that. That's a totally different set of pillars that we need to have a second episode on that. How to
Okay.
control your children's reactions. We don't have enough time here. But I'm curious because so yes, that is my food system. I love it. I'm very comfortable with it. It's very healthy for me.
Okay.
Not projecting that on anybody, but it works for me.
Sure.
How do you
Sure.
prevent though? Let's say that is stressful, or you said like laundry when you get home, or you have to think about cleaning your house. That is the system that's in complete overwhelm and chaos.
Okay.
How do you prevent? Now we've identified. How do you prevent the spillover into the other 4? Or potentially it's 2 or 3 that are overwhelmed. How do you prevent the spillover into the other areas? Because I think that's where, like I said before, the identifying it is very
Mhm.
important to be clear,
Yep. Yep.
but we need to stop and contain before we can fix, right? So how do you do that?
So if it is the laundry, then I want you to take a look at how you're doing laundry. Write down what is my current plan for laundry. Then you can write what's broke about it, because chances are you know it. Like I don't want to actually do laundry for 5 days a week. I only want to do it for 2 days. Okay, so then you have to be decisive and come up with how could we do it in just 2 days. And it might mean some brainstorming with your spouse or with your family or whatever. But we're going to stay in that problem area until we come up with a new solution. Now, the new solution may only last for 2 weeks and you're like, whoops, that one. Okay, so there's permission in there, but you're going to be decisive to fix that and come up with a solution for that problem right then and there. And you're going to let the other systems go for a little bit until you get that one under control. Then you could go into another one. So they don't bleed together, because you're like, you know what, right now I'm concentrating on the home system and currently it's laundry. So let's come up with a plan for this. And just that little bit of momentum of like, oh, we were decisive. We have a plan. It feels less overwhelming. Then you're like, you know what? Let's attack our food system. I got some things to say. and then you can move to the other system. That's how you prevent them from bleeding into each other, is like being very decisive, stop being solution oriented, solve that problem for that system right then, see if that's up and going and it's working, and then take on a new one.
I like that. That makes sense. And I am a sucker for systems as a fractional COO. By definition, we are operations nerds. But one thing I know is super important in business, and I want to see how this applies to your system here, is
Okay.
if we just start attacking systems, we're going to end up missing the boat. And we're going to just be on this continuous flywheel of correcting systems and becoming more efficient. You have to zoom out first and say, what is the business? What are we doing? And where are we going? And then you can design the right system. So for you, in these 5 different areas, obviously it's great to have them, to identify them and understand where you are. How do you first zoom out and decide what your life is? What's your life about? What's your purpose? Where are you going with your life? And then dive into the 5 systems.
Well, I think that would probably be within your me system, is asking yourself, what gives me a full charge? Like where is it that the passion lies, that the desire lies? And then you're looking out and you're like, okay, well, for me, it's creating. I create purses for a living. So I'm like, I just want to create all day long. So I got to figure out how to stay in that lane. So that works within my work system, because that's what I get to do for a living. But as you are asking, like, how do you find, like, what is the overall picture? It also speaks to your family system. What is it that you want what's the legacy you want to leave behind? So asking yourself, like, am I living the life that I want people to talk about after I am gone? So that deals with, like, okay, let's take a look at our family system. And um, am I raising my family the way that I want them to be? And I want people to talk about us behind our backs. And then your me system is like, are you getting a full charge and living out your passions and desires, which might most likely lead into your work system. So I'd love to say I could separate them out, but I don't know that I can, because it is such a full picture of, like, zooming out. These categories equal the person that you want to be, and keep endorsing who you want to be if they're running smoothly.
And that's kind of the whole point, right? Is that they should be the whole person. No, I like that. I think that's a fantastic answer. I'm curious though, when you're working with people, what do you find a commonality between when they first approach you, of which one is the most broken, or which few are the most broken?
Yes. Usually the me system, because we're just not quite sure how to take care of ourselves, but we follow a lot of advice from the world about, like, well, it's running 3 miles in the morning, or it's reading your Bible for an hour in the morning, or it's skincare that takes however long. Those are all, like, great answers, but they may not be the right answer for you. So I usually, like, really, really question, like, if yours is sleeping in for an hour, that's great. Like, that's what it is for you. If yours is actually, mine's burpees and Jesus. If yours is getting up and doing burpees, that's yours. So I usually start with the me system, is like, how are you getting a full charge? Because if you're only running at 30%, I can't tell which one of the systems is the most broke, because you are so broke. You're only at 30% instead of 100%. So let's kind of figure out how we can get you to a full charge. And we're still going to have to run the systems alongside while you try to figure out how to charge yourself, because you can't, unfortunately, just isolate that when you're a parent and stuff, so you kind of have to work on it alongside the others. But usually when I'm coaching, it ends up being like, let's just talk about how to get a full charge. How can we get you at running at 100%, or at least trying to run at 100%? And then usually, astonishingly, the next system that is usually the most broke is food. We just haven't made decisions for our food system.
Kind of like me. Did you just call me out there?
It could be. Because, like, the work system we all adore. A lot of us have gotten, especially those that are listening here, have gotten to choose what they love to do, right? And so they're like, I love my work. I love what I get to do for a living. I love all those things. But we tend to not plug time into the other systems, because we're like, oh, my work is easy, even though we might be working 70 hours and not realizing it. So then we also take a look at the work system and, like, hey, let's just be honest with how much time you're spending with it. And it could be the reverse of that too. Sometimes they're like, I just can't figure out why my business isn't taking off. I love it. I'm like, well, you applied 20 hours a week at it. So that's all the amount that it can take off, is because the 20 hours. And again, that is not a judgment. That might be like, well, why are you only applying 20 hours? Well, I have a newborn, or I have a toddler. I'm like, got it. Totally understand. We're concentrating on the family system right now. until we can get that up, and maybe we can sneak it up to 30 hours if our systems get a little bit smoother. But again, there's like not a lot of judgments. It's just looking at the systems and going, what is the most broke right now to reduce the overwhelm, and which ones do I need to be a little bit more honest with so that I can gain some momentum on?
Yeah, I want to dive in real quick because I meet so many people, and the one that I think, just from hearing these right now, is the me system. Kind of like you said, where I just find people are exhausted, they're burnt out. It may be from the years of pandemic and just inflation and all these things we have going on. I find that people are just on the edge or fully burnt out. So how do you? The second part of that is they don't know how to recharge themselves. How do you go about identifying it, not taking the worldly advice of, the running 3 miles or whatever? Listen, I'm all for your system. I hate half of it though. Burpees, I'm never going to do it. The Jesus, all for it, but I'm not going to do burpees in the morning. So how do I identify, and other people listening, how do you try different things just to know if you're in that state of burnout and exhaustion, what is it that's going to refuel you?
Yeah. I recall the times where you caught yourself humming or singing or dancing. Those are just like physical cues of like, I enjoyed that. What was that about? Was that because of the music playing? Was that because I was actually in my home and I just really enjoy my home? Like, try to take account of when you've had a little flutter, humming or singing or dancing or laughing more freely. Take a little note of like, hey, what's going on here? Is it the people that I'm with? Is it the environment? Is it the music? Is it because I just accomplished something? Like, take note of the times when you feel more joyful, and chances are those are things that will keep refueling you if you try to repeat them. And so if it's a person, awesome, have that person over more often. If it's the music, make a couple playlists. If it's an event that you got to plan, you had a bunch of family over, or the reverse, you went to an event, figure out what it is when you have some joy, even when you are burnt out. We all know that there's been a moment in your life when you've been really burned out and you can't respond, and you get like, it's a funny gif from a friend, or it's a song that plays that you're like, gosh, I love this song. What was it that just had a little surge and got you out of that funk? And take note of that and try to repeat that a few more times. I actually have a free resource on my website called 4 Areas to Restore Yourself, because we all went through this post 2020, especially as business owners. Like, we were like up and down, trying to change gears with whatever the latest was that we couldn't or could do. And so I wrote a simple little free PDF of how to restore yourself in 4 simple ways so that you kind of find yourself again.
That's so awesome. I love that. Is that the same website I just put on the screen, the
Yeah, it is.
encouragerpodcast.com?
Yeah.
Awesome. This is so great. So if you need that, if you are one of those people who are maybe burnt out or just not your peak self right now, go check that out. And you also had there was something else on this website you had for us, two resources per category.
Yeah, it's 2 simple hacks per those 5 systems. So 2 simple hacks for me, food, work, family, and home. So that if you're listening to this, you're like, but where do I start? I got 2 simple hacks for each one of them that'll get you rolling with those systems.
You're overloading us with value here and all your free stuff. I love it. Thank you, Rebekah, for all of this. I can't thank you enough for being here, because this is an episode where I feel like people need to separate things out into buckets and the different systems, because we're in some state of overwhelm. Let's just all admit it, right? Let's be real with each other here. But I want to ask this question, and it's a question for a question. We believe that powerful questions get powerful answers. That's why there's an obnoxious question mark behind me. But from this topic, from this episode, what's a question you want the listener to ask themselves until they get an answer, however long that takes, just so that they can either get out of overwhelm or move their life forward, move their business forward, whatever that may be? What is that powerful question you want them to ask?
Well, based on just our last 3 minutes of conversation, I was ask yourself this: where do I feel the most joyful, both physically and mentally? Where do I feel the most joyful?
I love it. I feel the most joyful putting these episodes on because I love you, the listeners, and I love putting out 5 episodes a week so you can get your business and your life and your body and your health moving in the right direction. So make sure you subscribe wherever you are. And thank you so much to Rebekah, an amazing guest. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Brandon.
We'll see you on the next episode of Harmonious at Lunch. Until then, answer that question. We'll see you next time.